Welcome back to Rhiella's Army of Dolls, where today I'm taking a closer look at the world of Jem and the Holograms. Jem was a hit TV show that premiered in 1985, and the first doll line came out in 1986, which was this one here, made by Hasbro. The original TV show was actually made partly in collaboration for Hasbro, so it was always designed to have a toy line attached to it. And this year, 2025, marks the 40th anniversary of that TV show. So what better way to mark that than by putting out a very new doll line? This one made by the loyal subject. So what we have here now is 3 generations of Jem dolls, each very different, but of course with some strong similarities because they each hark back to that original 1985 TV show. So all those children of the 80s out there like me, this is your nostalgia. So let's have a closer look today at the similarities and differences with these 3 very cool doll lines. And the very first thing we see when we pick up a doll is, of course, the box. The Hasbro dolls were released from 1986 to 1987, and in total there were about 27 dolls released. This is one of the boxes they released, and you can see the significant size and shape of this box. The color scheme that's chosen that goes with those outrageous 80s colors, the branding on the front that makes it very obvious that it is a Jem doll. And one of the things that I like about these dolls and that really brings back my nostalgia from my childhood is that it came with this cassette. It would be hard to even be able to play that cassette these days, but it is a wonderful nostalgia feature from the 1980s. On the back, we can see this full color photo. Now, this particular doll, she comes from the Misfits group. This is Clash. She's the only one I have new in box to show you, but all of the boxes are pretty similar, but you are, of course, going to find different artwork. And if it's a doll from the Jem group, then you're going to find artwork representing that on the back. The Integrity Toys dolls were released from 2012 to 2022, so about 11 years in total. And one of the things I really like about these dolls is that the box is a very specific shape that Integrity Toys designed to replicate the Hasbro box shape. So it is quite different from many of the others. It's a much harder card than the Hasbro one, and so it really gives you that collector feel. When we take off the front cover piece, we can see that the colors really replicate the colors we can see in the 1980s box, and it's a really cool design that opens up and has like a little closet behind it with all of Jem's accessories. The new doll by the loyal subjects was released only this year. We already have some more dolls on pre-order from the line, and I am expecting to see quite a few more. On the back, we can see some cool artwork that again represents the original TV show and looks pretty similar in its styling to the Hasbro box. It is the least sort of collector style box of the 3. It's slim fit, unlike the others, and doesn't go over the top, have anything, you know, particularly showy. I like that they all use the original logo that you can see from the TV show in some form or another, and the Hasbro and loyal subjects actually looks like it is exactly the same, whereas Integrity Toys has kind of adapted it a little bit to their own colors and styles. But these ones, you really get the feel that these dolls are in the same line. Other than the box shape, they really look very, very similar. And from what I'm read, we're even going to see that the stand of this doll actually has a musical element, so it plays music, which is harking back a bit to the cassette that came with the Hasbro doll. All the Jem and the Holograms dolls from the Hasbro right through to the new loyal subject are just on the larger size of 12-inch dolls, and there are some great things I like to see running through all 3 and making them feel pretty cohesive. And one of them is the large feet. Integrity Toys, most dolls have fairly small feet, some even comparable with Barbie, but they made their specific choice with the Jem and the Holograms dolls to use the color infusion body, which has larger feet that are much more realistically scaled for people, and I feel that really ties in cohesively with the Hasbro ones. Likewise, the new loyal subjects doll has really big feet. In fact, they're very similar in size to the original Hasbro one. They're just a little bit more arched, so when I tried the shoes on as I was taking these dolls out, I found they couldn't really swap shoes, which is a pity because with the Hasbro dolls, one of the first things people do is lose the shoes, unfortunately. So it's really hard to get these dolls with the shoes. The second thing I like is the stands. Now, unfortunately, I don't have an original Hasbro Jem stand, but they were similar in shape and size to the Integrity Toys stands. These ones were clearly modeled after the Hasbro stand, and they were also very bright pink like the new one. I really like that the Loyal Subjects uses the Jem logo in the stand. I'm not sure if it was the right choice to make it different in shape from the others, but it is a cool stand. It's a real feature, and it does have music effect if I pull the tab that again really ties into the idea of the music, the band, and the way the original dolls came with a cassette. Now, Jem in the TV show, she did have pink hair, so obviously that's going to be a theme that runs through. Now, this particular Jem that I have has a mix of blonde and pink hair from a particular episode. Integrity Toys have also released similar dolls, such as this glitter and gold Jem, who has a mix of different hair colours, highlighting different things about Jem and a different part in her story. We get similarly this beautiful pink hair on my Integrity Toys Jem in the middle, and the really, really bright pink hair from the Loyal Subjects. The hair, I'm actually really impressed and happy with the feel of the Loyal Subjects hair. It is a very nice quality considering the price point that this doll is. And speaking of price points, the original Hasbro dolls came out and they were about $15 per doll with their box set, which featured many things, including that tape and the stand and their full outfit and shoes. The Integrity Toys dolls in 2012 cost about $120. So it's a big step up in money, obviously, but we do have a lot of different things about these dolls that you can't get in the others. So in particular, just the high-end feel of the doll herself, the high-end finish of the clothing, the real quality of hair, the different colors available. When you look at the shoes, obviously you can see that the Integrity Toys shoes are real fabric. They've got different pieces put together, whereas each of the other dolls has just a plastic piece. The Loyal Subjects come out this year, and this doll retailed for only $25 US, which if you think $15 back in the mid-80s, $25 now in the mid-2020s, well, that value is pretty high. In addition, she comes with 2 entire sets of outfits and quite a few accessories. One cool thing I found going through the box is that you can attach this piece to the top of her stand instead of what's holding her, and that transforms her stand into a microphone. I think that's really cool, although it did occur to me that I kind of wish this doll had removable hands that could be swapped for a microphone holding hand. I think that would add an extra layer. When it comes to the proportions of the dolls, there are some things that surprise me. So the Hasbro doll has a much larger head, and each of the other companies has chosen to scale that head down. The Loyal Subjects doll has overall a fairly large physique, but her head is nonetheless quite small. And I think it's interesting to see that there is quite a big difference there. Another difference is the fact that Integrity Toys decided to use 2 different sculpts for Jem. Initially in the line, this particular sculpt with the open mouth was used more often to represent Jem when she was performing as Jem, whereas this one with the closed mouth was used to represent her when she was playing as Jericho, as you can see as the line progressed. The sculpts were used interchangeably just to represent different moments in her life, different points of the TV show, whereas the Hasbro doll always has the open mouth, and I guess we don't have enough dolls yet from the Loyal Subjects to make any real claims about her, but this is the only sculpt we've seen so far. The new doll, who's being released as a 2-pack with Synergy, appears to have the same sculpt, just different face makeup, different hair colour. As I'm laying the dolls down to compare their bodies, this is a good time to show the Hasbro doll in the Loyal Subjects shoe. As you can see, it actually goes on quite well and really does fit her, but the slope is very wrong because her foot is more flat, which unfortunately means that although these shoes are pretty similar, I don't think that you will be able to replace your lost Hasbro shoes with a Loyal Subject shoe. Seeing the dolls laid down together, and I've tried to evenly match the point where their feet are lying, you can get a real sense of the height of these dolls. So the Integrity Toys doll is very clearly the tallest. She also has, as I said, a significantly smaller head than the Hasbro doll. And if you didn't count that large head, she would be even taller again. The Hasbro doll is quite a lot taller than the Loyal Subjects though. And if I place those two side by side who have the closest physique, we can see that Hasbro is a lot taller. And again, it isn't just the size of her head that gives her that height. One interesting thing to note about this Loyal Subject, I couldn't believe how heavy she was when I picked her up. She has a really weighty body. It's actually quite a surprise to handle her. I was expecting a light doll, especially again at that low price point. I was expecting a cheaper plastic. Even the Hasbro doll actually is quite heavy, and I think that's partly because of the material that they've used to make her body, which actually has quite a good amount of bend to it. She feels like a solid quality doll. The Integrity Toys doll is the lightest. She has the leanest physique, and that is part of why she's light, but of course she also has that classic Integrity Toys body, which is not made of a heavy plastic. Integrity Toys Jem has a very lean physique compared with the other. Again, we know she has the color infusion body, which I have also talked about in my video comparing Integrity Toys bodies. And you're welcome to go and have a look at that video if you'd like to see a little bit more about the body. The other two bodies are a little bit less well known to me. The Hasbro body has this thick, heavy rubber which has bending knees and bending elbows. It also has a joint at the wrist. The torso is a lighter plastic, still has a good solid feel to it, and she has a jointed waist. She gets a pretty good range of movement despite not having hinged jointing. The new Loyal Subjects body unfortunately has picked up quite a lot of staining from the dress, and this is a new in the box doll, so I'm guessing they're pretty much all like this, and that's a shame to see. She has a really interesting physique, fairly realistic figure for a modern woman. She's not super skinny, but she's also not a plus size figure. I like it as being a very realistic human shape. And actually her head and the size of that is actually very realistic. So overall, I think they've done a really good job in making this doll look like a real person. Downside to this body is the jointing. She looks like she would be much more posable than Hasbro Jem, and in some ways she is. Her elbow actually has a really good range of motion, as does her leg. For a play doll, these are incredibly impressive joints, but some of the others are really not doing much. The torso joint, I can barely make move. I don't know that it really has any play in it at all. The shoulders, I'm finding she doesn't want to bend her arms in terribly well or up terribly well. They really don't do a lot. The circular slice joints on her arms and legs look a little bit unsightly, and again, they don't add a whole lot to the movement of this doll, but it is pretty impressive to see how well the elbow and knees do, and that's going to give her quite a lot of play value. Also does have an ankle joint, which I can see in here, and it has a pretty good range of movement. Sometimes I find ankle joints are really just there to, look like the doll has an extra joint, but I do feel in this case that she can actually do a fair bit with it. She's also got a very impressive amount of waist movement that allows her to actually do a pretty good human style splits. I'm actually feeling that although some of these joints are a bit silly, overall she poses pretty well like a person, and that's fairly impressive. This doll also comes with two complete outfits, so you can dress her either as on-stage Jem or at-home Jerica. And again, for the price she cost, that is pretty exceptional. For the other dolls, we would have had to pay extra to get a second outfit or buy them as a gift set. When it comes to the construction of the outfits, both the Hasbro outfit and the Loyal Subjects outfit comes with Velcro closures. I would say the Hasbro one is fully lined, and I like that because if this outfit had been lined, it might not have covered her in that unsightly red color. On the other hand, the Integrity Toys outfit comes with hooks and also with zip closures, so it's a little bit more finely finished. It's also fully lined, as it should be, because a doll that costs this much, you really don't want getting stained by her outfit before you even open her from the box. Loyal Subjects doll also came with this adorable pair of glasses. I actually have lenses. I think that's awesome. So she can wear those to help disguise herself so her fans don't know that she is Jem. I do find it quite funny that she's got the two outfits and, you know, kind of disguising herself, even though she's got her Jem makeup on. I feel like there could be maybe a second head. You could swap her head for a Jericho head. It's going to be pretty hard for her to trick the people she knows into not realizing she's Jem if she is dressing with that hair and makeup. Hasbro and the Loyal Subjects dolls can swap clothes reasonably well because their physique is actually quite similar. I haven't tried to do that with the Integrity Toys doll because she is obviously a much leaner and slimmer figure than the other two. But I'm really pleased to see that this can work. And so people who are, you know, looking for extra clothes for either of them, I see no reason why you can't switch most of their clothes. And with the shoes, even to a certain extent, you might be happy with that. I would say that in terms of the quality of the clothing from the Loyal Subject, look, it's only passable. This is basically a glorified t-shirt, and when I compare it with the detail that's on the Hasbro outfit, it looks kind of disappointing, I'll be honest. But that said, she is a very cheap doll for current standards, and with all the inclusions she comes with, she is very impressive. I just feel that personally I would rather pay a bit more and get higher quality for that, an outfit that didn't stain the doll and clothing that was made to a more high-end standard. The body, I think, is surprisingly impressive. It has some really good jointing, but I also feel like there are some areas where it could improve. It was actually very difficult to dress her in this dress because her hand is quite big and her fingers are very sharp and her arm doesn't bend back that well. All those things together, it was difficult to get her in, and I keep trying to get her hand off and thinking surely it must come off, but I have not been able to, and I don't want to break her. 40 years since the TV show first came out and the dolls are still going strong. I really love about all of these dolls the sense of fun they have. You don't need to be a fan of the show to really appreciate them. They're works of art. The color choices, over-the-top outfits, everything just screams 80s. I'm a child of the 80s, and even back then this kind of thing was cheesy, and now it's just fun cheesy. What a great walk back through nostalgia lane. At the price point, I really don't think you could expect any more from this awesome new Loyal Subjects doll either. I do have some complaints about her, but when you take into account that she only costs $25, I think that's a pretty amazing package. Yes, there are some things they can improve, but honestly, that's a pretty cool doll. My favorite is and always will be the Integrity Toys Jem. She just adds a level of class that I don't quite see from the other two, but you pay for that. And she's getting pretty hard to find now because obviously it's been 3 years since they stopped making this line. And so these are becoming really sought after collectibles and really going up in value. So it's really nice for fans of the show, for people who just love this style, that there's a new doll out there who we can get hold of who is not going to cost you a fortune. If you enjoyed my videos about Jem and about all my other collectible dolls, then please make sure to subscribe to my channel. I've got loads more content coming. You don't want to miss any of my upcoming doll videos.